I guess we have a quorum, we can get started. Thank you everyone for coming. Before we start and read and approve the agenda, I want to remind everyone that this is a board meeting. Rules have not changed. We have dispensed of the parliamentarian because it has been customary not to have one. I needed someone to hold my hand for one or two meetings, but there's no need at the moment. Also, I would like to remind everyone to conduct themselves with proper decorum when addressing this board or any of their members. That reminder is also for the board members when addressing anyone either on the board or in the gallery. Now, without any further, I'd like to ask if there are any additions to the agenda. I believe that there were.
Go ahead, David.
Yes, I'd like to add discussion of the proposal I put out on the 21st of June about affiliates having access to the database and supplying them with new member information from the Secretary of State.
Thanks. Mr. Sykoff?
I believe there's a gentleman here from Constitution Day.
Yes.
Recognized. Yep.
How do I keep saying Liberty?
Liberty something.
Liberty Bookstore, yes. Mr. Pickrell.
We have the chairman and the vice chairman of the Colorado Republican Liberty Caucus here to talk about the Liberty Index.
Awesome. That is under public commentary at the beginning, right? Yes.
It can be.
Okay.
That's for 3 minutes.
Perfect. Mr. Stapleton.
I'm not sure if Mr. Pickerel had talked about it yet, but we need to add the agenda item for vote to appropriate the funds for the Chili Fest. That application is due end of July.
If we do before July 28th, I think we get the lower rate.
I know we had approved to add 3 minutes for affiliates. So during those 3 minutes, you could ask for those funds.
Okay.
And then the LPCO Facebook group discussion.
Facebook group discussion
Under
under
new business, please.
new business. Any other additions? Anybody online need to add anything?
Campaigns and does anyone on the call need to add anything?
Michael and Angela.
Yeah.
I do not need to add any.
Guess
Mr.
not.
Harlow?
Last
I do
time
not need-
There was discussion about adding a spot on the agenda for the affiliate representatives.
Yes, I just said that.
Forgive me, I didn't hear.
Yeah, thank you. And that's 3 minutes each, yes, Ms. Harlow.
Also, last meeting, there was going to be, I think at the end of officer reports, if there was any brief LNC update or questions to any LNC reps that might be present. And I'd just like to make a note of something. The board standing rules have the notice requirements that the agenda be posted by Friday,
It was posted on Wednesday.
not the ones with the items on it. It was a blank form agenda. I'd been checking each day, and I spoke to Mr. Psycho about that as well. I'm not objecting, I'm just saying somebody could, and it's something to be careful of, because it may seem pedantic, but some members will choose whether to come to the meeting by what's on the agenda. So if there's ever anything, decision made that turns out to be controversial, you could have problems if there wasn't proper notice.
Thank you. It was customary to add things to the agenda in the last 2 years up until the very last minute.
Mr.
So-
Harlos was incorrect on that.
Thank you. So that's where I learned.
Precedent.
So we'll note that
Yeah.
and try to make sure that everything is added by the previous week to the agenda and posted by Friday so that there are no additions except at the actual board meeting when something needs to be added at the end. All right, anything else to add to the agenda? Read and approve minutes. Has everyone read the June minutes? I did not find them. I found May as the last minutes that were posted.
Probably Spalding.
I found them and I read them, and I was okay with them, but I don't recall which folder, if I found them in this folder or in June's folder. I may have found them in June's folder.
Yeah, they're in June's folder, but I did not find them online. That's why I was asking. Is there any objections to the minutes as is written?
I have one additional question.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm flipping through here. The policy manual that keeps going to each meeting, is that going to be covered under policy manual committee or?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Okay, we have, guests here, so let's start with, public comment, 3 minutes each person. Tell us who you are, who you're with, and also, give your presentation in 3 minutes or less. Andy, would you like to start?
Yeah, the packet I got for everybody, so I'm just X as well, so everyone can have one. You don't have to look at it now, so you can read it at your leisure. You can look at it now if you want. There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't know if I get one or not.
Has this flyer been posted to our folder so we can view it online, or will it be afterwards?
There's a few extras if people want.
I can ask for it to be scanned and posted afterwards. We just got this from our guests.
If someone just wants to take a picture of it and post it really quick, that would be cool too.
Do you know how, Mike?
I mean, there'd be a lot of pictures.
It's a whole folder of different
Yeah.
things, but I'm sure when he speaks about it, we can, listen to it.
Okay.
Angela, I can forward you the email, which I think has most of the documents in it.
Yeah,
That you sent
yeah.
originally. Yeah, I'll forward
Okay,
it to you right now.
that'd be great. I like to follow along if I can. Thank you.
Do it to campaigns too, Lance.
Ready?
All right. Yeah, my name is Andy McKeon, and I'm the founder of Liberty Lives Forever. And if you note in the packet, Constitution Day is September 17th. Congress passed a unanimous law a number of years ago, signed by the president, that requires every school in America to do an education program on the U.S. Constitution for their students. And it's on a Tuesday this year, September 17th. So I'm here to ask the endorsement of the Libertarian Party of Colorado to get behind this effort, basically to publicize and promote it to libertarians throughout the state, and encourage and ask libertarians to go to their local schools. I'm focusing on 8th grade through high school, but the law says elementary school, middle school, high school, college, and university. So any age that you want to go to would be fine. And the goal is to, I'm hoping to give those books out, the Pocket Constitution books, which are in the packet. And if you notice in the middle of the book, when you get a chance, there's flashcards. There's 24 of them. So the goal is to have the students study and learn the 24 flashcards. They're all facts taken directly out of the text of the Constitution. I'm willing to do a training if that's necessary. If you want me to train, I can go regionally, or I could train here in Denver if you want to do an hour training. So I'm hoping the party will back this officially, and I'm hoping to get libertarians across the country to participate in this. Part of the program is after you teach the Constitution and hopefully give out a book to the students, is to have the students either write a short essay. It's usually 300 to 500 word essay, but whatever amount it is, explaining what's their favorite part of the U.S. Constitution and why. It's in one of the letters in the packet. And if not that, if they wanted to add an amendment to the Constitution, there's 27 right now, but if they wanted to add a 28th amendment, what would they add and why? That's another way. But you can come up with another question. But the key to this, I've learned over the years, is to get some concrete evidence that the students are actually learning what's in the Constitution. Now, I also have, President Trump has done a message for us, and I have one from former Governor Hickenlooper. Jared Polis is on our website. We have Michael Bennett and Cory Gardner, Dinah DeGette, Scott Tipton. So we're trying to get students to look at these messages that these elected officials have done and then email their offices through their website. That's another part of it. The whole idea is to have the students to read, study, and learn the contents of the Constitution. That's the goal that I have in mind. So that's pretty well it. And my hope is if you endorse this as a party, that I can work with, you know, your affiliates and people throughout the state to recruit volunteers, however you do that, to go and contact, typically you contact the superintendent, or you can contact the principal, or a school board member, teacher, whatever. Any questions? Yes, sir.
What age in elementary school do you
It's
find?
fifth grade. Fifth grade is when it's in the state standards.
Okay.
We focus on fifth grade, eighth grade, and then there's a state law in Colorado that every high school student has to take a semester course in civics to graduate from high school. So depending on the school district, that could be a ninth grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, or 12th grade. So you'd have to find out. That's an ideal class to go into.
Thank you so much.
All right. So will you get some feedback then?
I suggest that we add this to the agenda for next month so we have time to look at the whole
And if you have any
report and
questions,
vote on
you have
it.
my card in
We
there,
do.
my email, you can call me, be happy to share anything. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, I really appreciate it. So my name is Christian Rodier, and I'm a volunteer with the Colorado Immigrant Rights Coalition. I want to talk briefly how I got here. A couple of years ago, one of the most horrible things in my life happened to me. I was living in this home with my friends. We were in a beautiful neighborhood, and we had everything, until the government used eminent domain to kick me out of my home and tear it down and build a bus depot. I would have been okay with it if it would have been something like a bridge or a road. At that point, one of my friends didn't have enough time to find a place to stay because they gave us a limited amount of time. I had to drop him off at an office asleep. This wasn't just my friend, but this was my hero. He had fought in both the Afghan and Iraq war, and that was one of the lowest points in my life. Where am I going with this? At this point, I got a taste of what it's like for migrants who get deported. And for them, it's much worse. They must leave family, friends, job, everything. You know, most of them have not lifted a sole finger to hurt anyone. That is why I'm asking you to support what's called the the Dream and the Promise Act. What it does is it gives the dreamers, those who came here as undocumented as children, a pathway to citizenship so they can stay. And also those who have come here on PPS, which basically those who came here because of the disaster. So they don't have to live under the constant threat of being deported, because anytime, any president can whisk it away just like that. And all you have to do is, if you sign this card, I will deliver it to our senator and let him know how we feel, so no one has to go through that. I don't have enough cards for everybody, but if you're willing to sign it, raise your hand and I'll come by and give it to you.
Thank you, Mr. Rodier.
Me? Sorry. Frank Atwood, your liaison to Center Right Coalition and also an advocate for approval voting. Center Right Coalition had Cory Gardner attend this morning. Republicans are psyching up for 2020 and also doing local training for local government positions. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you very much. Sue? Ms. Moore?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My name is Sue Moore. I'm the chairman of the Republican Liberty Caucus of Colorado. This is my vice chair, Carl Honegger. We are the libertarian-leaning wing of the Republican Party. Probably the only difference between us and you is that we are registered Republicans. But I believe that our principles are aligned. We stand for personal freedom, free markets, and limited government. I personally am the former chairman of the Denver Republican Party, the Denver County Republican Party. So I've been involved in this system for a long time, but having finished that stint, I decided that this is really more my wheelhouse, more of my comfort zone politically. Carl, you want to tell them a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I am currently the chairman and treasurer of the Broomfield County Republican Party, and have run for city council in 2017. And so I decided to join the RLC because I heard about it through when Ron Paul ran for president in 2012. It's the first time I actually could vote in the presidential election, and so want to kind of continue to spread a message to people who are available, are registered Republican, may not think in terms of party as much as be open-minded to different ideas that we talk about. So like the limited government, free markets, those kind of ideas.
All right, so I talked to John Pickerel and Dave Aiken. Is Dave here? Oh, okay, hi Dave. On the phone, and we talked a little bit about our latest project with the RLC. It's our 2019 Liberty Scorecard. We're trying to pick up the slack where Principles of Liberty left off. Is everyone here, or anyone here familiar with that? Anyway, what they did was follow the legislature, look at the different bills that were coming up, discuss them, apply principles to them, and then grade each legislator based on how they voted according to constitutional conservative principles. So this is our first pass at this. We didn't do this until after the legislative session was over, but we did go through, we looked at over 300 bills, we narrowed it down to about 72 that kind of comported with our principles, and then we graded each legislator based on these. We'd like to beef this up. We'd like to make it a lot more robust and do it more similarly to the way Principles of Liberty did it, starting at the beginning of the session, looking at each bill as it comes up, as it goes through committee, and then goes to a final vote of the floor, and then having some more input with our legislators, telling them why we oppose it, why we support it, or what our principles are. So that takes a lot more volunteer hours than we are able to put in. We had a committee of 6 people, and it took a lot of man hours. So in discussing it with some of your folks, sounds like it's something that you all might be interested in. We would love the assistance. I don't know how we could work together, but let me pass these out so everyone has a copy. And if you want to discuss this as a party, and if we can work together, we would love to have that happen.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Dawson?
I'd like to say that the RLC Statement of Principles is almost identical, if not identical, to the Libertarian Party's Statement of Principles. That's how closely aligned they are.
Yeah, I think we should take a look at it and see and put it on next month's agenda for sure.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
My phone number is on the brochure. I didn't bring enough business cards.
Awesome.
If you want to call me.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Natalie?
Yes. Thank you. My name is Natalie Menton, and a longtime community activist, and I know many of you. What I'm speaking about tonight is Taxpayers' Bill of Rights, and where we stand right now, we have some immediate dangers. This is one of the greatest things that we have in Colorado. As many of you know, we have Proposition CC, which is going to be on November's ballot. That means in less than 100 days, this ballot is going to be in your mailbox. It asks to eliminate the growth spending limits on Colorado government, permanently eliminate them, not a temporary timeout like Ref C, even though that was full of lies in itself. This is a full out, get rid of it. That also means our refunds would be gone permanently. That, we need to, we just have so much distraction going on right now with so many different political issues. There is a need to arm everybody with the information they need to reach out to their friends, families, and neighbors. This election, Prop CC, is this year. It's a year where most people aren't focused on their ballot. It's school board and it's city council. That is why we need to have this outreach. It will be entirely about turnout and just everybody making a dedicated effort to reach 50 or 100 people. Ensure that follow through, did you get your ballot in, to make all the difference in the world for us. So we are having a Tabor boot camp August 3rd, and I know I probably did not make enough copies of this, but Saturday, August 3rd, check in at 10:45, class starts at 11. There will be about a 45-minute break period for networking, and then resume class going till 2 p.m. The class is $20, but what you get out of it is the materials, the refreshments, and a I Love Tabor t-shirt. So basically that is just cost of the items going into it. It's not a moneymaker. So I hope everybody would be able to join us, spread the word. And if there is, the intent is to have more of these boot camps, but as I'm not wanting to dig myself in too deep and get overwhelmed, right now this is the first. We would then schedule another one within the metro area, Arapahoe County, maybe Dunco. So you can pay at the website, coloradoengage.com, $20, it's set up with PayPal, or you could mail a check and that address is on here. Make a check to Colorado Engage. Second immediate threat also is the Initiative 3. Initiative 3 is what recently went through the Colorado Supreme Court, and we have a single subject rule here in Colorado. You can't put something on the ballot that has multiple topics. Tabor, without a doubt, has multiple topics. July 17th, if you look on the back side here, the title board, Wednesday the 17th, am I out of time? Yep, okay. Read the back side and I'm here for questions. Thank you.
Anyone else for public commentary? Mr. Harlow, then Mr. Matthew, then Mr. Clark.
Just want to take a moment, I'm here on behalf of the Douglas County Libertarian Group, and we are forming
Mr. Harlow, there's a time period for affiliates right after this. Do you want to keep that for then, or?
If you have a spot in the
Yes,
agenda,
there's
it's
a
fine.
spot in the
This
agenda
is
right
what
after
we're
this.
talking about. Okay.
Thank you.
On the
Mr.
same
Matthew?
Thank you for having me, Madam Chair. My name is Justin Matthew. I'm the Vice Chair of the Douglas County Group. Reason I'm here today is I wanted to let you guys know that I will not be doing the congressional run that I've spoken to multiple individuals about. I'm going to be focusing on something a little bit more local. I have some stuff in mind, but I would like to speak to my campaign director before I move forward. I'd like to defer to him. I think that he has some very good input, and I'd like to thank all those individuals who, on the state board, who have given me advice and guidance through this process. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Matthew. Mr. Clark?
I'm going to speak from the affiliate section.
Okay. Anyone else for open public comment?
I'm kind of in the gray area, so I'm
Ms.
here as
Harless.
Secretary Pro Tem, but I'm not on the board. Most of my comments, I think, could fit during questions during board reports, which I sent ahead of time so that anyone might know what the questions are. But the one other thing I wanted to add, which may come up during the group management session, is to just publicly state my concern about the way, well, it's me in particular was handled, but I'm not concerned about me per se. I'm a grown woman, but there are a lot of handicapped children and the youth that is coming up we need. And we all know the autistic diagnoses are on the up. We do not want an autistic young person just getting interested in politics to have said to them what was said to me in that group. And I know there were political motivations behind it, and that might not be said to somebody else, but it was completely unacceptable. And I'm asking this board to repudiate those comments. They were unintentionally bigoted, ableist bigotry. I'm not accusing anyone of doing it on purpose. There's a lack of education. And I've had to have a crash course in this, being a late diagnosed person on the spectrum. And there's a big opportunity for this party, though, to reach out to that segment, because they are rejected a lot, because they're misunderstood. And I see a big opportunity here, but that's not going to happen until we really recognize that no pound of flesh. It's just that was wrong. On that note, I sent an email to the chair privately about a concern of, with a new volunteer, with a potential misdeed that they had conducted in the past, and I'm concerned about the security of this party. I will speak to you about it in private if you'd like. Maybe I write long emails that might have gotten missed, but I do think there is a potential issue that needs to be addressed. And maybe Jay North, who was the chair at the time that the rebuke came about to this particular volunteer, you might want to speak with him.
I'll speak with you and with Jay.
Yeah, afterwards I'll give you the details.
I also would like to let you know that I have a call in to Autism Speaks.
Awesome.
To get some more information for the board and for.
Yeah, and also Colorado Autism Awareness, which is more local. Autism Speaks is a
I
national.
Googled them, I did not find them, but I did find a local chapter for Autism
Yeah.
Speaks, so that's why I
Just an
got
FYI,
numbered.
I don't know these organizations, but people on the spectrum for some reason don't like Autism Speaks.
Okay.
I don't know why. I think it's kind of like with the gun rights groups where some of them aren't really about gun rights. I don't know. I'll get you the contact information too for the local group.
Perfect.
So, yeah, I really, really appreciate it, and I do reiterate my request for the board to repudiate
Thank
those
you.
comments.
Okay, any further public comments? Well, we're actually out of time for public comments. Now for affiliates and development groups, you have 3 minutes each. Mr. Harlows.
I'm here on behalf of the Douglas County Group. Douglas County is exploring the idea of partnering with Elbert County. At this point, there is no Elbert County group at all. There's not a social group, there's not a development group, there's no organization at all in Elbert County. I tried to put it together when I was chair, and I could not get any buy-in from any of the people who said that they wanted to be involved. These are people that came to my class and lived in Elbert County, said they wanted to do it, and then when I asked them to do it, offered help, they were not willing to put in the work. So Douglas County decided that we were going to be the guinea pig to try this out, to try to partner with a neighboring county to bring them kind of under our umbrella, teach them how to do it until they had enough board members to separate from us and do their own thing. So our first meeting is going to be on July 18th in Elizabeth. The event will be posted, is posted right now on Facebook, and of course we'll have an email going out to all the people in Elbert County here very shortly.
I will be there.
Beautiful.
Hopefully more people will show up. Mr. Gallant, you'll be there. And coordinate with Steve about, all the intricacies of actually merging those two or making them separate or whatever you need to do. My only concern was that people in Elbert should be represented in that decision. Mr. Clark.
Yeah, I'm Ross. I'm the vice chair of the Jefferson County affiliate, and 2 significant items to go over real quick. First, we're going to be changing locations from, we used to be at the Capitol Grill and Building, we're moving to Colorado Holiday Bowling in Lakewood. And the main reason for that is it's a lot quieter than the Capitol Grill.
Not cheaper,
And I don't know why the Capitol Grill is as noisy as it is, but it's relatively loud, so that's the reason we're moving. And then the other thing, we're gonna have a roadside cleanup that's not scheduled yet, but it'll be in late July on Saturday morning. And that's gonna be on West Colfax Avenue, so that should be a lot of fun as well. So those are the 2 main items. If you have any questions or anything, just come see me afterwards.
Thank you. Mr. Branson.
A comes before B, comes before J.
I was going in order of who will raise their hand first, I'm sorry.
Kevin Branson, I'm the outreach director for Libertarian Party of Arapahoe County. And just a couple of quick updates, as Wayne mentioned, kind of trying to help a neighboring affiliate. We've been trying to work on getting Adams up and running for, I don't know, years. We want to take that project on as a personal project, and actually mentor them through the process. We would do, we've already been in contact with 3 core people that are very interested in driving this thing forward. I think we've spoken to a couple of them. And we definitely want to work, with you. And we had a little meeting yesterday, and we kind of talked about different ways to approach this, and really kind of 3 different ways. They're doing it one way, and I think it can work as long as we're not breaking any laws. We've had some of those discussions. We're looking at more of a mentoring. We want them to actually establish their own meetings. We will take the core group of our people to every one of their meetings and commit to do that for a 6-month period of time or more, until they actually get in, I think, a foothold to go forward. On another note, and we're working with the people from El Paso. They're going to be doing a big event this weekend. It's Pride Fest in Colorado Springs, right? Saturday and Sunday. I sent them a note and said, as people volunteer to work your booth, if you come up with a 2 to 4 hour period of time where you look really lean, tell me, and we will bring a team from LPAC down to work your booth. And I would challenge every other affiliate to do the same.
Thank you, Mr. Brunson. Josh, Kyle, there's Kyle.
I'm here representing Denver County. Biggest issue we're dealing with right now is our treasurer and secretary, Ramon Doan, got promoted at his job, and due to a conflict of interest, he's going to have to step down as treasurer, so we're going to be needing someone to fill that role before we can look into moving toward affiliating. Last month, however, we did meet and actually me, David, and Ramon met and put together some bylaws, so we got that part together. And Josh, you have anything to add?
Your meeting this month, maybe?
Oh, we have our meeting on Tuesday, July 16th at Dive In.
Thank you, Mr. Ferry.
What's, your last name, please?
Fury, F-U-R-E-Y.
Thank you.
Pueblo County? Johnny had something, or Michael Stapleton had something for Pueblo.
Well,
You said you wanted to make a motion for Pueblo.
Yes,
your
in the
outreach
absence
group.
of a outreach director, we have the application for the Pueblo Chili and Frijoles Fest coming up. I know John had offered to cover that on his credit card and get reimbursed by the party. So I just want to make the motion to get that fee covered.
How much?
$100. And then, Kevin, was there additional charge for insurance and that sort of thing?
The $100 is only an application fee, John. If you were accepted, then you pay the balance. You better look at that again. I think it's close to like for like $400 or $500.
$350 was last I heard.
And then the insurance. Right. So about $400 is going to be total cost.
You don't remember how much that insurance company should do?
Did I send it back to you? No, I sent it to you for your,
It cost me $52.
I've been kind of
for Pride
acting
Fest.
outreach director, I don't know if you guys know this, but, yeah, there's a firm that we use, I can send you the contact, and you do an online application, you tell them what the festival is, who's, and you're gonna get specifics that you have to, underwrite whoever the fest host is and all that stuff.
The reason I ask is so I can give the board a firm number, so you know how much money you're approving. So it looks like, would it be reasonable to say $500 or less?
Yeah, and that's the best way to do it,
Would you like
if
to
they
make a
approve
motion?
500, you come in at
Somebody on the
400.
board want to make a motion on this?
I move that the board allocate $500 to Pueblo County Development Group for a booth at the Chili and Grill Festival.
Is there a second? There's a motion on the table to allocate $500 for the Chili Festival in Pueblo. Are there any opposed?
Inquiry.
Yes.
So who do we have that was committed to man the booth?
Right now, it's Michael and I. But
we do have
help from
the group
yeah.
with the way the group is coming along in Pueblo. we potentially have other volunteers that were interested in participating in outreach too, so.
Would you reach out to El Paso too?
El Paso, and probably since in the development stages, since we're partnering with Otero, we may be able to get some that way as well. And potentially Fremont, because we were exploring, since none of them have an official affiliate, and that way we could have people from Fremont, Pueblo, and Otero.
Any further discussion?
Yes. Is there any plan to convert this into some sort of fundraising event as well, as opposed to just being there and handing out literature?
No, not at this time, but that's a great idea. We can look at that, and I can get together with Michael and see if that's it's something that we can do or not. I just want to make sure it's feasible.
Michael Lopez, campus.
Yeah, that's all I have.
I have a question. How many people do you expect to show up, attended this?
Over the weekend, there's 300,000 people that come through the festival.
Is there any further discussion? Any opposed? With no opposition, it passes. Any other affiliates present? Oh, El Paso.
I'd just like to say, El Paso's monthly meetings are every third Thursday. And as Kevin pointed out, we're having a booth at Pride Fest, which is in the beautiful park in Colorado Springs. That's this coming weekend, Saturday and Sunday. That's it.
Just, Madam Chair, at some point, if the board wishes, perhaps during Mr. Gallant's report, Mr. Goldbranson alluded to those 3 different ways we talked. If the board wants to know what those basically were, so that any concerns of representation could be alleviated, I'd be more than glad to outline them briefly, what the possible 3 plans were. And I think all of us agreed that Plan A is off the table because it's probably illegal. So we're on Plan B and Plan C.
Would you like to send an email to the board with all the?
Sure.
With the...
Yeah, because I needed to write it up anyway.
Right. Thank you. Mr. Psycho?
Libertarian Party of Boulder County, sir.
Oh, Libertarian Party of Boulder County.
I would like to publicly thank Matt DG for attending the second gardening event that we had. It was super helpful. We planted over 100 onions that we will give out to the homeless at the end of the season. I'd like to invite anybody who else is interested to come up on August 10th, Saturday at noon. I will buy you lunch, I will feed you, give you a drink, and we'll have fun.
Thank you, Mr. Psycho. Any other affiliates, development groups? Okay, we move to standing committee reports. Technology?
Nothing to report.
No report. Database?
A couple of items. Over the weekend, the National Party upgraded our servers so that we're now running on a much faster and much higher capacity platform. So the website is running a lot faster, and the database queries are also quite a bit faster. Second thing, I removed Anthony Hale as outreach director from the leadership webpage, and I mentioned the vacancy in the next statewide email blast.
Thank you. Officer reports. I had the screen at the wrong place. Yes, sorry.
To alert you of that, the Douglas County donate button disappeared off the affiliate side, because we asked for members to renew their dues through that, and we went, and it was gone.
Okay,
Just wanted to let you know.
I'll have to find out about that.
Okay, officer reports. I have nothing to add, Vice Chairman.
Just in my report, I mentioned that I would discuss my findings about the latest development with Adams County that has been covered by Mr. Goldbranson, so therefore I have nothing to add to my report.
Mr. Hirschman?
The only thing I want to add is that I've been making some errors in my report on the
Teresa?
subscription. You know, how much it grows or shrinks from month to month. And the reason is because there's a check that gets mailed in toward the end of the month. I don't find out about it until maybe before, maybe after, I do my report. And so the mistake that I've been making was in order to try to make the growth or shrinkage be more correct, I've been crediting that $25 to the month when the check is written instead of when I actually got it. So I'm going to change that, and from now on, it's going to bounce up and down depending on when I see this particular check, but it's going to, from month to month, it'll be accurate. That's the only thing I have to add.
Thank you. Someone is speaking, wait until they're finished, then you may raise your hand, just as is a regular parliamentary procedure. So go ahead now, if you may ask the question.
Generally speaking, sometimes if there's more, people take a list that I'm used to with the LC desk, but no, I did not actually have a question. The first two went by so fast and it wasn't asked for questions, so is the floor still open for questions on your report?
We've never been. We've never been questioned on the reports before. When I was on the board, Mr. Harlow was chair. We are giving our report, and that's it. That's how it's been conducted ever since I remember. The rules have not changed. They were lax before. They have not changed. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I object. Other people are allowed to ask questions for each of the reports. No one is exempt on that. And that has never been the practice. Usually people don't have questions, it's rare, but other board members absolutely have the right to ask questions on any board report or committee report.
Okay, you have a question?
Yeah, the question I raised on the list was regarding the meeting, the secret meeting that was held.
It was called in the previous board meeting. It was all the board of directors, and it was an executive session. Whatever happened in that meeting was what happened in that meeting, and it will not be discussed.
Two things. I did not see any notice for that, so
You were present, so.
I was present at the last board meeting. I'll review the recording, but myself and multiple people do not remember notice. And notice needs to be published on the website, not just at a board meeting. Other members who aren't here need to know. But further, there are limited topics that can be discussed.
What was discussed at the meeting is private and secret. It will not be discussed here. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
You are out of order.
I appeal the ruling of the chair. I appeal the ruling of the chair that says I'm out of order.
In page
I'll go ahead and second
649,
that.
it says that.
You have a second.
You have a second, okay?
If I may jump in here, Mr. Goldbranson was the host of that meeting. That meeting, to call it a secret meeting is disingenuous. All that we did as a board at that all that happened, members had maybe some to contribute, but that was for our own benefit as a board to get together and be a cohesive unit and to understand where each one of us is thinking. This meeting is not,
Michael.
It wasn't clandestine, so that's what I've got for you, Karen Ann, but I tend to agree that
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. Right now is not discussion. There was an appeal to the chair that I am, that when I said that she was out of order because she was being combative against the board. But, that's what the second, we were asking if there was a second to that appeal. Can you hear us?
Yes, I'll maintain that second.
You'll maintain that second. Is there any discussion?
Yes, normally I, as the mover, would get to speak first. You get to speak first. You get to speak next after me if you wish, and last, which is an unusual.
Please speak.
I was just letting you know your rights, ma'am.
Thank you.
I do not think I was being combative in asserting my rights. It's quite a chilling effect to say somebody was being combative. I would like anyone to point out where I was rude or disrespectful. I was certainly assertive because member rights have a right to know when things take place. So it seems like the only grounds that Madam Chair is ruling me out of order is on combativeness, not on the substance of the question. And I absolutely dispute that I was being combative. It was certainly not my intent. I have an assertive personality. At no point was I rude. Everyone in this room knows I know how to be rude, and I certainly was not. So I think the chair inappropriately silenced correct questions. If the chair would like me to, if she could advise on something that would make it less combative, I am certainly willing to accommodate that request. But to silence on that behalf is just, on those grounds, is just not proper. And it's anti-transparency. We would kill the government if they did that.
Any further discussion? Should we take this to a vote? Anyone who thinks that Ms. Harlow was in order and that the chair was wrong?
That's not the proper way.
What is the proper way, Ms. Harlow?
Thank you. It would be everyone who's in favor of sustaining the ruling of the chair would say yes. Anyone who's in favor of overruling the ruling of the chair would say no. It's one of those weird votes where yes is actually
Yes is no and no is yes, okay. Anyone who would wish to sustain the ruling of the chair, say aye.
Aye.
Could we go to a roll call because I don't know if that was half or just about. Bishop?
Abstain.
Legislative?
Abstain.
Aye.
Treasurer? Affiliates?
Nay.
Membership? Communications?
Aye.
Campaigns?
Abstain.
Fundraising?
Abstain.
One nay, 3 ayes.
I'm on his proxy, so.
Ms. Secretary?
Obviously, I would say, nay on
So now we have a tie. And I'm the tiebreaker. Well. One was upheld. On to the next item, or next. Are we done with treasurer?
Yes.
Fundraising? Anything to add to your report?
Nothing to add.
Campaigns?
I didn't put in a report on time, so this is my public record of that report. I've been in contact with 2 volunteers. I've heard back from 1. I'm trying to coordinate with her to work with Kim Tavendale in the Broomfield City Council race. I got in contact with her. She is indeed running nonpartisan, so we can help her. I have been in touch with Eric Mulder just to let him know that, you know, the board is going to support him. Those are the 2 races, the RTD and Broomfield, that we're really focusing on. I'm going to have to get with the treasurer to see if our efforts on social media as far as fundraising have been effective. But as far as I know, where we stand right now is we've raised $0, but we're looking at 2 campaigns, and I think things are looking up. So that's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. We are now have a vacancy for outreach. Mr. Hale resigned yesterday. He did not express a reason why. So we will move to affiliates.
Nothing to add in my report, but I'll see my time to Ms. Harlow's, Mr. Bill Branson, if they want to go there. Yeah.
And Kevin and I, we worked each other in.
Well, I want to start back up a square. I just want the board to know that I have kind of been acting outreach director, even with an outreach director in the seat. I will continue to be available going forward. I am concerned that there are some annual reminders of different events coming up that are going to an outreach director mailbox. And whatever it takes to get somebody in that seat, somebody needs to be reviewing those notifications so you don't miss another few opportunities somewhere.
To answer your question, the mailbox has been forwarded to me as of this morning.
Okay, so if you see something in there related to outreach or any
definitely
questions, please call me. And I have been kind of guiding even some of the affiliates through the process of getting their applications in and getting their insurance in and stuff like that, and we'll continue to do so. I'll let you talk about the meeting yesterday.
Mr. Gobranson and I are kind of looking at perhaps a team to go around helping affiliates with this building model, and we're looking for more on the team. But basically what was discussed is there's three paths as we see it. One we called adoption, and that's the one we figured probably is going to run into issues with Tracer, because multi-county reporting is difficult or impossible. So the second route, which is what we call fostering, if the affiliate bylaws allow membership from counties that don't already have an affiliate, those people can be full members of that county. What Douglas is going to propose is doubling our board except for the chair, with second seats being reserved for Elbert County members, to train them being board members as the second vice chair, the assistant secretary, and so on. And that when they're ready to affiliate, they have their initial board, and it will be in our bylaws as a temporary extension of the board that will expire, it'll have a sunset clause in it. And it gives them an opportunity of time. It doesn't take away their representation at all. It grants them power in Douglas County. So that is what we're now calling the fostering model. And I would leave to Mr. Goldbranson had already talked about the mentoring model. So we think one of those two will work nearly everywhere. And I'd like to, my big goal was, if we got a team of 10 people to encourage spreading one of these models, I believe we could have every geographic region in the state affiliated in 2 years. So if anyone else would like to join us on this ambitious project, we can only do it if we get the whole team. And Mr. Goldbranson and I have already committed. So see either of us if you're interested.
Awesome.
I would like to add, in conjunction with our affiliates director, that I think both Douglas and Arapahoe would toss out the challenge for every active group in the state to do the same thing. And if you come up with a different approach, let's all just compare notes and see what works and what doesn't.
I'm going to document it for you, and we'll trial and error.
Thank you. Mr. Hirschman.
Speaking of Tracer, would you consider like taking Elbert County money and putting it in Douglas County's account? And
They're
then giving
members.
it back? Oh, they are.
We can always
I'm
make.
just thinking of the way the state does it.
Yeah, that is a good idea. We'll have to discuss that at the Douglas meeting. We could always agree to that, like, you know, with the Elbert people. We want to hear from them and what they want.
Okay, and the meeting in Elbert is the 16th. Mr. Pickerel.
Madam Chairman. For the fostering model, so you would have a double board membership until they affiliate, or until they become a development group, or when's that
Affiliate.
cut over?
Or 2 years, or whenever the sunset provision kicks in.
Okay, so it's pretty flexible.
It's pretty flexible. It will be up to the, I hate using the word target county because it sounds like, we're invading Poland or something. But though they will be full voting members of our board. And to me, I believe that will actually train them rather than reading about how to be a board member. And I think that's why sometimes the development group model fails.
Would this be just for affiliates to do this, or would, like, a development group like Pueblo, would it be open for Pueblo to say going to Fremont or Farno or?
I hadn't
Kathy?
considered it. Let me think about it and see if any weird thing comes to mind. But my initial gut reaction is, yeah, that's fantastic.
Madam Chair, may I have?
Mr. Lopez, yes? What was your question?
Speaking as a member of Elbert County, on its surface, the plan makes me a little hesitant to go with. Mixing the boards doesn't make a lot of sense to me for either group, particularly for Douglas County. If Elbert County members are allowed to vote on business in Douglas County, you may get something entirely different than what you wanted, but in conjunction to that, I don't know if Elbert is going to be able to run its own thing without Douglas holding its hand. I would just like to see all of this on paper as a formal presentation. It just on its surface, it makes me hesitant. So
maybe we should add it to the agenda for next month after that original kickoff meeting, so that people can voice their opinions at that meeting as well. Yes, Mr. Pickle?
What's the danger of having 64 different experiments going? Kind of a free market approach, as long as we're not going to get in trouble with a table or tracer, and as long as we're not stepping on, say in this case, Albert's right, their rights to do what they want to do, or in reverse with Douglas. Why not just let it kind of evolve how it's going to evolve?
Okay, legislative, I did not see a report uploaded. I did get your email, but the attachments don't show up on the website when you send it via email, so for everyone to see.
It's uploaded now.
It's uploaded now?
Yes. In my initial report, I had talked about the potential for a special session coming up to, basically it was trying to do another end around on CC. Since my report of last week, that has ended. The special session is not going to happen. There was a lot of objection from all the Republicans in both the Senate and the House caucuses that helped get that stopped. Secondly, coming up that I did not add in my report is there is a interim committee that their first meeting is Thursday. It's called a School Safety Committee, made up of 4 Republicans, 4 Democrats at the state legislature. First meeting is this Thursday at 9 a.m. They are not taking public comment, but you know that the groups like Moms Demand Action and Everytown are going to show up just to say, we were there. Look who's in the room and supports this. So if we can get some people there, I know in working with Rally for Our Rights, they're going to get some people there, potentially live stream it so we know what's going on and what's happening in the meeting. See, the interesting is going to be to see who shows up as experts, because each legislator on that committee will be able to invite somebody to speak to the issue, and it'll be interesting to see who they bring in to speak to those issues.
When is the date again?
The first meeting, there are going to be 4 meetings. The first one is July 11th, 9 a.m. at the Capitol in the Old State Library, and the second one will be August 20th. That's the ones that I know about so far. There's supposed to be 2 more. But my opinion is they will take what they come out of this school safety committee and develop some type of legislation to run during the legislative session with what they find, with what the experts bring forward to tell them to do.
Thank you.
And then finally, it's probably more of a campaigns-related issue, but the initial recall poll list petitions have been approved and will be out in circulation sometime later this week. I would just recommend, if you want to participate as an individual, whether signing the petition, circulating petitions. I'm not going to tell the affiliates what to do, but I just think that as a state party, we probably don't want to attach our name or any resources to it. But if you want to participate, by all means participate.
Anything further?
Yeah, I concur with that.
Anything further with legislator? Membership, do you have anything to add?
Yes. First of all, before I forget, we will need, as far as the newsletter goes, the plan is to publish that in 2 weeks. So we will need funds for printing costs and distribution, mailing. Right now, the plan is to email it to the entire membership, but we will be hard copy mailing to all our donors. And Michelle, how much did we need last time for doing that? What do we need the request to be?
Somewhere in the neighborhood of $700.
I think it was over 8.
John, you might remember. I think that we asked for like $680 and it went over by like $100. So I'm just saying around 800.
Would it be in order to make a motion at this time? Madam Chairman, I'll move that $800 be allocated to the membership director for printing and mailing the quarterly newsletter.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Any opposed?
Actually, just to clarify,
Yes.
is this to, did you say just, not just to donors, but to all the members?
The hard copy only gets sent to our donors. We can have a report sent to the entire membership, which is every registered Libertarian in the state.
You had a question?
No, that includes enough for each of the affiliates to have a staff to hand out in outreach events.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Any opposed? Without opposition, it passes.
And secondly, I do have an addendum to my report. I'd like to read it. It's very short. The newsletter committee needs to discuss potential issues surrounding email versus hard copy formatting. The point was made that if you format the email version as an email, it's a little more readable. You don't have to open an attachment, that sort of thing. So we may get people that wouldn't open an attachment to anything else. So we want to try to get this where people are actually reading the newsletter. Secondly, we requested an email address to be used by the newsletter team. That team is myself, Ms. Harlos, and Michelle. This assists in making requests more professional, allows the team to see the messages. It allows everything to come in one place. All three of us would have access to it, and that way, if somebody sends something to that email address, we have it, and it's a one-stop shop. So I've sent that request a few times, and I'm not sure where it's at, but we would really like to have that newsletter.
I'm the one you have to ask for that. For you, Carrie Ann, and Michelle? Yeah, I can do that. What do you want it to be?
Newsletter at lpcolorado.org.
Okay, I will do that.
And lastly, for transparency purposes and to keep the newsletter committee items from cluttering the board list, a separate reflector should be made for that email address just for transparency purposes. And Ms. Harlos offered to assist in setting that up as she's done that in the past. And lastly, I would like to say, all the affiliates here, please send a quick update, 1 or 2 sentences is all I'm asking for. So we can include that newsletter. Please send that to Karen Ann. The way the process works is I try to get all the content through Karen Ann. That way she is the one person that has everything. When she gathers it, she sends it to me. I work with Michelle on layout and what's going to fit for that quarter. And then we run it through the chairman for final approval, and then it's released for publication.
I have a quick question. How long will it take to get the newsletter email?
I'm doing it right now.
So maybe just if we could have it sent to the newsletter email, so if we could
Right,
right
because
now.
she get it, yeah.
That
If it's
way
not sent to the
everybody has it
newsletter,
and it
at the
doesn't
time we
have
didn't
to-
have it.
Right.
So either Karen and or the newsletter address, please. That way we have it all in one place.
Right. And your membership, right?
Do you understand the reflector list thing, or want me to get with you after?
You can talk to me afterwards.
Thank you.
And that's all I have.
Communications.
Nothing to add. Well, a few things to add. Sorry. I'll add some things to my list to do. I think we should make a Facebook event, a meetup event, and then push this on Twitter and Instagram, and include all utilities in this. But type that up the paper things we're talking about. We actually added another writer last minute. His name is Malcolm Foster. He's with the Denver team development. And then I'd like to thank Eric Mulder for putting together the latest resolution press release, and that just went out to everybody else.
The censorship one? Anything further? We have a question.
Yeah, just jump in, but kind of back to the newsletter. Michelle asked how much we spent on the last. It was $680 for printing and mailing.
Thank you. Yes, Michelle?
No, that actually wasn't the complete,
Oh.
because, yes, that's what we allocated in the minutes. But once we got, that didn't include the tax and, the mailing to the opponents. So, it ended up being close to 800.
Thank you.
I think if you recall from the minutes of the meeting, that we volunteered to pick up any difference above what the board had approved.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. We move to secretary, is the secretary report?
I only had a question. Earlier, the June minutes were brought up briefly, and then no further discussion.
They were approved.
They were approved?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Pedro.
LNC secretary. That's the next thing, LNC
Oh,
update,
yeah,
so.
yeah. As I said, I identify as minutes made. There's the meeting coming up. There's a lot of issues that you guys will probably want to voice opinions to Mr. Longstreth on, including a very sticky issue of making the chair a paid position. That's a simplification of but that's ultimately what it comes down to. And myself and some others find it pretty problematic. Others are in support. If you'd like more information on that, please come talk to me, because it's way more complicated than I can get here. But I will email the board with the items that I know are gonna be on the agenda so far. Richard is your voice.
I
So,
spoke with him.
yeah, and he will do a good job in speaking for you. I will also, as the meeting comes up, email to the board the stream, because you can always watch the whole thing. And I know Richard's responsive to text, so if you text him during the meeting, he will do it on the fly, whatever your concerns may be. We lost our fundraising director, Lauren Dougherty, who was probably one of the best employees that we had. I had been asking for an exit interview because I want to know why she left. And it's been kind of resisted, so we'll see what happens there. It'll depend on Ms. Dougherty's comfort level, because when you leave an employer, it's always uncomfortable because you need him for a reference later. It gets a little strange. But I think we should all be very concerned why we lost Lauren, who was just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I've been reading all of the emails.
There's
a
some
lot.
ethical issues going on.
Yes. There is a lot. I actually concur with you, Madam Secretary.
It's bothering me that so many other people are just like, roll over. I'm like, do I like something?
We did the standing committee reports, ad hoc committee reports, if any. Welcome committee, is Mark Montoni on the phone?
I do not believe so, but I haven't checked in a little bit. No.
campaigns committee, if there's anything to add to the committee? No?
There's nothing to add.
Okay, policy manual committee, who's the chairman of the policy manual committee? Mr. Hirschman?
I would like to defer to the committee members for any comment because I totally dropped the ball on this. Forgot all about it.
Mr. Seebeck? You're on the policy manual committee? Do you have anything to add? Oh, Mr. Atkin? Ms. Harlows?
As far as I understood, it was now before the board, that we did all the final tweaks that we could do, and that it's for the board for review.
Well,
That's kind of what I thought. I guess that's why.
Is that where it is? It's all for the board to review?
Yeah.
All right, let's,
Check it off.
have the board reviewed it and add it to the next, month's meeting for vote.
We've had a month to review it.
I'm not in agreement with any of it.
Okay.
As is, so, I don't know. If you'd like to, has everyone read the policy manual?
Yes.
Is there any discussion on approving the policy manual as is? Does anybody want to make a motion for this? There's no
I'd like to
motion.
move.
Pardon?
I would like to move to have the board approve it as is, as a starting point, to be further developed by the board.
I don't know, I have a question. How binding is this policy manual?
Yeah.
Yes, Ms. Harlow, please.
It's like a standing rule where you can be suspended by a 2/3 vote. So it's the standing rules. If there's an exigent circumstance where that just isn't what the board wants to do, it can be suspended by a 2/3 vote, and it can be amended at any time by a majority vote with proper notice.
Okay. Any discussion on the topic? Ms. Plummer, you had something to say?
I don't think we have a second yet, Madam Chair.
Second.
There's a motion. There is a motion to approve the. Wait, didn't you make the motion?
I made the motion.
Mr. Hirschman did, and technically committee motions have the whole committee behind it. You don't require a second, but I will second it.
Okay. Is there any discussion on the topic? That's what I thought. That's what I was just asking for a second. Ms. Plummer, you had something to say about the policy manual?
No. I just, if we're calling to vote on it, I'm ready to vote if we're going to do that.
Okay. Mr. Lopez, you had something to say?
I haven't had a chance to go through it in detail. So at this point, I'm not prepared to approve it as is. But that's all I've got. I would like to have this moved to next month, but that's all the discussion I have.
All right, Ms. Harlows and Mr. Hirschman.
Is that time?
That's time.
That was it.
Is there a motion to extend time?
I move to extend for 5 minutes.
Is there a second? Any opposed? Mr. Psycho?
Opposed.
Opposed. Anybody else? With only one opposed, it passes. Time is well extended. What was
My comment was, it is very easily amendable, so it doesn't bind anyone in a huge lock and chain, but it gives direction on how to handle things, and it lets members know how things will be handled. I will say 2 conventions ago, was it 2? Yes, not last one, but the one, when I re-ran for communications director, this was one of the things I ran on, and that the convention indicated that they wanted. We described what it would be, and it was very enthusiastically received. Was a formal vote taken by the convention? No. But it was something they were heartily approved of, and I would say there is a convention member mandate still that has not been overturned to produce the policy manual. You had someone who's no longer even in Colorado who still dedicated his time. We put in hundreds of hours into this thing. So I would ask that the board take that into consideration, and the fact that people experienced with policy, put it together and try not to make it weird.
Mr. Seiko.
Part of inquiry, where is the current policy that's drafted located? Because I couldn't find the June minutes, and then there's an email that says it was in the July minutes, and the one in the June minutes doesn't have the updates that I requested, and were confirmed that they were changed, by John.
I believe we had a meeting after that
You sent out.
where there was a rehaul, an overhaul, where we redid it. And that may have taken out, I think it did, in fact, take out some of the stuff that you
It did.
recommended.
Okay, my initial question was, where is the current draft then? Because I have a 522 policy manual, that's the one I reviewed. Is it in, it's not in, I don't see it in the June or July minutes, I see it in the June minutes.
I think in June minutes is where it is.
Is that the current latest version, the one in the
As far
June
as I know,
minutes?
yes.
I'm pulling up here.
May I?
Yes,
just say,
Mr. Hirsch.
If we approve the thing as it is, then the board can work on it. If you don't like it, please approve it so that you can work on it and fix it. Because nothing will ever happen if you wait for the 3 people that are working on it to make it the way you like it. So,
Thank
let's
you.
move forward.
Is there any further discussion on the topic? Should we move to vote?
I don't think it's.
We have still further discussion on the topic.
Yeah, I think if it hasn't, I think I've been misled that the changes that requested were made. And nobody is speaking up and saying, here's where it's not 522, where is the past, where's the most recent version? And at this point, I would be no, because of that.
I like the idea of a policy manual. I think it's great. I like it as a matter of guidance. I don't like it as a matter of it takes a 2/3 vote to change it. I haven't gone through it, so today my vote would be no, just because I don't know what I'm agreeing to. They can only be changed by 2/3 vote. That being said, if it was treated as just guidance, not binding, then I'm prepared to vote for it today in the spirit of what Ms. Hirschman has said, that we can change it later. I just don't know what I'm agreeing to.
I concur with that.
So do we want to take a vote or do we not want to take a vote? Do we want to table the motion for the next meeting? What do we want to do?
I would motion to table. Second.
Well, we have a motion on the floor to approve it as is, so we have to vote on that.
We don't have to,
To postpone definitely takes precedence.
to postpone definitely takes precedence because we're motioning to move it to the next meeting, so it's a subsidiary motion which takes precedence. There's a
Gotcha.
motion to move it to the next month's board meeting, and there's a second. Is there any discussion on moving it to next month? Yes, Mr. Hirschman?
Policy manual was not 5-something, it's 610. In the June minutes. In July?
Yeah.
In June.
If I may make a suggestion, the policy manual committee will make sure when there's current version is sent to all the board members. It's certainly fair, you can't vote on something you haven't seen.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
We're not Congress.
All right, so there's a motion to table this motion, to postpone definitely to next month's board meeting. There is a second. Is there any opposition to this subsidiary motion?
A second? Yes, I'll second.
No, is there any opposition?
Yeah.
One opposed? Is there, let's move to a vote? I think we could do it by voice this time. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
No.
With the ayes have it. Issues Committee startup, Mr. Stapleton.
I just need to get a draft sent to communications and database for an email out soliciting members for the issues committee. Hopefully I will get that done within the next week. And the issues committee can put the Tabor issues on top of its list to start working on. But that'll be up to the issues committee to decide.
Legislative committee, oh, sorry, Ms. Rackman?
We have a statewide email going out on the 15th, so if you could get me something on
Okay.
the 14th.
And then the legislative action committee, there's going to be that one won't take place to solicit volunteers until August. And once that's done, I'll get that put together, and in August we'll start soliciting volunteers so we can start meeting by the end of September, 1st of October. And hopefully we will leave it up to the legislative action committee and myself to bring up the discussion to work with the Republican Liberty Caucus and their ratings.
Thank you. Anything further? We move to the bylaws mandated committee reports. You have just about. Bylaws mandated committee reports, if any. Convention committee, Ms. Plummer.
Yeah, so I would like to move to appoint the convention committee. And I'm going to appoint by adoption of motion naming members of committee. So I'd like to move that the members of the convention committee be composed of Ms. Plummer, Ms. Lundy, Ms. Sutton, and Ms. Pogue.
Is there any discussion on this? Sorry, we have a motion to appoint Ms. Lundy, Ms. Plummer, Ms. Lundy, Ms. Sutton, and Ms. Pogue to the convention committee, and there has been a second. Is there any discussion? Any opposed? Without opposition, it passes. Anything further, Ms. Plummer?
No, that's all. So we'll have a really good detailed report next meeting.
Thank you. When will your next committee meeting be? Or have you not planned it?
When will our first committee meeting be?
Sorry.
So right now, I think we're looking, there's something I have to be in town for that's going to leave me available on Saturday, the 27th. So I think what we're looking at doing is distributing up site visits, depending on who's in which location that's convenient to go, and regrouping for results on the 27th. And depending on the location, I don't know how we're going to make that public just yet. It might be Facebook Live, but if we have another way of doing it, then we'll look at depending on where we're meeting, how that whole thing is happening. But we'll announce it as soon as we know for sure.
Thank you. Anything further?
Not for me.
Thank you. There's no unfinished business. New business. LPCO Facebook group discussion added by the communications director.
Currently, we have 1,190 members in that group. Many of which are not Colorado Libertarians. Many of which are not even registered Libertarians in general. The decision was made, I believe, at the end of last month, early this month, to disassociate that group from the main Facebook page. And the reason for that was because the previous chair, and to no fault, just by mistake, the current chair, accidentally liked, reacted, and made comments as the party. And I think that is not the way, that's the primary reason for disassociating that group from Facebook. It's just the way it works. What I'd like to discuss is, first of all, I think that group was started in the wrong way. And the wrong way that is, I think you have to have some moderation. Because since there's been moderation introduced into that group, one thing I've been able to do better is see what content is coming in. Because I don't get notifications for every little thing that happens. We get a lot of spam in that group. A good example is Johnny Rocket, right? So Johnny Rocket tries to push his podcasts and all of his articles and everything else into the group, and what does it have to do with libertarian stuff in Colorado? I also think that group is a large distraction for activists on the ground who are out there trying to actually do stuff in their community. So, I would like to hear from board members if it should be abolished, if it should be started over, if it should just be kept as is. That's why I'm bringing it up.
Mr. Stapleton and Mr. Mulder.
That group can be used as a useful tool. The problem is it's gotten way out of control. And we have stuff that is being posted in there that has not any way related to any type of issues that libertarians, whether it be legislative issues, whether it be party issues, we've used it as a tool to go at people. And I think the only way to effectively rein that group in before we completely eliminate it is to moderate that group, post-approve that group, and if people aren't interested in that, if they feel that they are being censored, then don't associate with that group. But that group either becomes a useful tool where we can communicate effectively, or it goes away, in my opinion.
Thank you, Mr. Mulder.
Cat's already out of the bag. A lot of people who are in that group have been there for a while, and rules have been introduced that they were not used to, and introducing rules after a group has already been established. I've seen it happen in other Facebook groups. It doesn't help. I say call it Colorado Liberty or whatever it needs to be called to show unequivocally this isn't a tool of the Libertarian Party of Colorado. I left that group weeks ago, and I believe that it needs to be completely 100% disassociated.
Yeah, are you speaking as
Yes.
you or as?
I'm
as
speaking on the
secretary?
topic. Okay. My advice after watching this, because there's been very inconsistent moderation, which we can debate at another time, it's the impression, is that unofficial be added to the name of the group and it be given back to the guy who started it, which is Alan Scott. He gave it to the party in good faith that it would be what his original vision was, and that's
doesn't
more
want it
along the
back.
line. What?
He doesn't want it back.
I talked with him and he said he'd be glad to take it back in order to he finds somebody to run it. He does not want to run it permanently, but he would take ownership back for him to decide what to do it. Put unofficial on the title, get rid of it out of the LPCO. It's become a huge dumpster fire. Instead, encourage people to go to their counties. We should not be focusing on the state party. The county parties should each have their own groups, and they can run them as they see fit. Each county culture is a little bit different, and I see there's a fantastic group started by Mr. Lopez for statewide events and news. That's all the state party needs. Let the counties handle it as they wish, but members like a community group, make it unofficial, turn it over to Alan, and I'm sure if everyone's allowed to post, the uncensored group will go away. The only reason it was there is because they felt like it was inconsistency. And that would present a better public face, I think. So I think it respects Alan, it accomplishes the goal, and it moves things to the counties. That is what I would recommend.
Any further discussion?
So I just want to say, because I'm in a county that doesn't have an affiliate, right? There is a development
Plummer?
group, so there isn't like a full-time person posting to the group. It's difficult to get engagement, if you're not in a county that's affiliated. And I did look to the state when I moved here.
Ms. Plummer, would you wait to be recognized before speaking?
Sorry.
Thanks. There's a motion on the table to extend for 5 minutes. Is there a second? Any opposed? All right, Mr. Cycle, you were going to say, or Mr. Pickerel? Mr. Pickerel, sorry.
Does that mean that, I'm sorry if I don't understand, does that mean that the Libertarian Party of Colorado would not have a Facebook page?
What group? Facebook group.
What's the difference?
Mr. Lopez started it.
That's a different topic. May I answer the question of what's the difference?
Yeah.
Yes.
A page is completely outward, and a group is still a page technically because it's on the web, right? But in this case, it's inward, mainly because it's closed. So
Victoria,
you have to be a member.
can I borrow your charger?
So it's not entirely public.
Okay. Yeah, see, when I came here from Indiana, that was one of the first places I went to was the Colorado webpage. I just want to make sure, the Facebook page, I just want to make sure that's going to be available.
That's
So my understanding is the Facebook page stays, and if you abolish the group, it would just become unofficial and not be run by the party. Or be done completely, but it just would not be official business of the party unless we decide to keep it. Is that correct?
I like Eric's idea of abolishing it entirely.
Okay.
May I have the floor?
Yes, Mr. Lopez.
Here's my thought. I think that group serves somewhat of a purpose. I started strictly for business. That page is heavily moderated one. It's intended for activists only. But as far as general information for, to Angela's point, and Mr. Pickerel's point, that page does serve a purpose, and I think that at least one board member should be involved in that page. So I think I would make a motion to say if we can appoint a board member to that page to be impartial and just post on behalf of the state as far as information goes, that would be probably the ideal situation, but not have it represent the state, if that makes sense.
Hold on, 1 second.
I just let you know to put me in the queue.
Anybody else have any opinions on this or any further discussion? Ms. Harlan, if you go ahead.
Nothing stops the state party from posting anywhere that they want. I think having a state party member be an admin defeats the whole purpose because it gives the indicia of the state's, approval. Think about it, though, just through libertarian philosophy. Why are we running a community? The community needs to run the community. We're running the party. And abolishing it entirely, I just think is entirely disrespectful to the people who did years and years of work to it. And the fair thing to do would be to give it back to its original creator and if he wants to delete it, fine.
Thank you. Mr. Mulder.
Just to clarify, I said 100% disassociate, i.e. take Libertarian Party of Colorado out of the name completely. Call it Colorado Liberty or whatever you gotta call it.
Any further discussion?
What's to stop giving it back to Alan? And Alan to change it right back to Libertarian Party.
Isn't there something in our bylaws that anything that uses the name Libertarian Party of Colorado should be approved by the Libertarian Party of Colorado, and if they use the name differently, I believe it's in section.
You're correct.
Let me pull it out, because it is. That to use our name, we have to have approval from us. Oh, no, it's in our constitution, not in our bylaws, sorry. It's in our constitution, or the use of it's a proprietary term, so. In the constitution, I have to find it.
30 seconds.
We're running out of time, but it's in there, that would be the way that there's not, to use it. We're out of time.
Motion to extend 2 more minutes.
Is there there's a motion to extend 2 more minutes, and it's been seconded, are there any opposed? Without opposition, we're extending it 2 more minutes.
I would like to come up with a solution. So, the formal motion, to abolish it. So I would motion to abolish the current Facebook group entirely.
Second.
Is there any discussion on abolishing there's a motion on the table to abolish the Facebook group completely, and it's been seconded. Is there any discussion on the topic? Mr. Stapleton and Ms. Harlow.
In the opinion of the communications director, do you think the group is too far gone that we just can't rein it in or moderate it in any way to be an effective tool at all?
No, it's been a good 2 weeks.
I'm just worried that while we can push stuff out through the state page, it's gonna limit, I mean, I used that page a lot last legislative session. We got a lot of traction that way from a lot of people who didn't participate on the state page. I'm just afraid we're gonna eliminate a tool that can be used for issues-based action items and stuff like that. The problem is, and I agree with the vice chair, that Pandora's out of the box, that the group hasn't been appropriately moderated and to do so now. And that's why I say, if you choose to stay and voluntary associate and abide by the rules, fine. If not, there's plenty of other places to go participate.
Time.
Move to extend for 2 minutes.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion to extend for another 2 minutes, is that sufficient time? Well, is there any opposed? Extend for 2 minutes?
Abolishing the group is likely to have the exact opposite effect as you intend. Unless this board is prepared to sue our members for starting another Libertarian Party of Colorado group, I can tell you, you do not have it copyrighted, it's unenforceable. And I haven't found it in the Constitution, but it doesn't matter. It's an unenforceable thing because they're not claiming to be the party, they're claiming to be a special interest group about the party. And if we're gonna start suing our activists, half of them who don't even believe in IP is going to raise way more problems than that group ever was. To have the softest landing, and you don't have a bunch of irked off libertarians, would be stick unofficial in the title, give it to Alan, and tell him, fly and be free. Because the minute you abolish it and say a libertarian can't do something, you're gonna have 15 of them doing it.
Mr. Morgan.
I'm welcome to Karen Ann Harless's suggestion. I believe putting unofficial in the title would be extremely important because frankly, from the time right before I left the group, it was just a hair away from being a fake news site where people were falsely representing themselves as part of the Libertarian Party and giving false information to inquiring individuals. So having unofficial in that title, I believe, is imperative if it's going to stay at all. Otherwise, drop the bomb on it.
Okay.
Metaphorical.
I would rescind my former motion and then move to that we change to unofficial in the title. I'd like to add that.
Okay.
And rename it, but I would not include giving back funds.
Second.
Okay, so there is a motion on the table to rename the group to unofficial and keep the current moderators, is that correct?
Correct.
And it's been seconded. Is there any discussion on the topic?
I move to amend.
Ms. Harlow, you've moved to amend.
So it has been useful in a way that you can't use the other page.
It has a different reach. Different reach and effectiveness than using the state page.
It was great for legislative session. I totally concur with that 100%. And from my perspective, I mean, Malcolm Foster, who just came on board as a writer, he came on because of the discussion we had, where we said, hey, we just published this. Anybody else who wants to do it, that's included do it. It has been useful, but it needed a flame put out, so to speak.
There's an amendment, have a motion?
Yeah, I move to amend to add at the end of that motion and return the group to its creator, Alan Scott, and I'd like to speak to my motion. Keeping the staff or the board as moderators, the word unofficial isn't going to mean a thing.
And the amendment has not been seconded yet.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yes, it was.
The amendment was not
Oh,
seconded.
not the amendment.
No, the amendment was not
Sorry.
seconded. Is there a second on the amendment to the motion to return the Facebook group to Alan Scott, who has told me he doesn't want it? By the way.
Then he can abolish it, he can delete it. If he doesn't want it, let him delete it.
Is there a second to this motion? There's no second, so the original motion stands. Is there any opposition to the original motion to call the name unofficial? There was no second, it doesn't.
No, you were asking for opposition of the original.
Oh, okay.
So we're back to now.
We're back to the original motion of changing the name to Libertarian Party of Colorado, unofficial, and keeping the moderators as they are. Or keeping moderators on the board. Is there any opposition other than Ms. Harlow's? There is one opposed. I'll take a vote by voice.
Can you state the question?
To change the name of the group to Libertarian Party of Colorado, unofficial, but keep the moderation. Is all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Yeah, opposed.
Say nay.
Nay.
So one nay. How many ayes were there? Please, clearly, the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Go back to the agenda. Affiliates have, okay, there is a next item on the agenda, that was added by our database manager, so affiliates having access to the database and new member information.
Okay, I just wanted to bring up and, allow you guys to discuss this proposal to, allow the affiliates to appoint a membership director or coordinator, whatever they wanna call it, to access newly registered libertarians and other members in their county and hopefully get them to making phone calls to these people and inviting them to their local group or whatever else they have going on and try and build their membership. This would require that the person they appoint have access to the database. They would get a list of newly registered libertarians that might be either set up by me or we could teach them how to do it. And then they would call them and update any information that they might have, such as invalid phone numbers, they get an email address, that sort of thing.
Question?
Sure.
Would they have to, there used to be, when I was running a development group, there used to be a paper that we signed that said that we would, a sharing agreement. Would that still be in place?
Yes, actually, the one we would require is the one that National uses for anybody who has login access to the database.
Second.
So is there a motion to do this? Is it a motion you're making?
I don't know if we actually need a motion, or this is just something I can do, or whatever.
Is there a need for a motion? I don't think so. Well, if there is a motion, let's make a motion and, right, would somebody wanna make a motion to share information to the affiliates as long as they sign the paperwork from National?
Second.
There's a motion on the table to share the information with the affiliates as long as they sign the paperwork required by National, and it's been seconded. Is there any discussion on the matter or any opposed? Without opposition, it passes.
Thank you.
And I believe that is it. There's nothing else on the agenda.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any opposed? So moved. Meeting's been adjourned.
Woo.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
affiliates, please send newsletter articles. Please.